Work smart, not hard is a saying that I usually don't like because I think that it doesn't apply to work. However, when we're talking about weight loss, I think that it's super relevant and you can actually apply it in order to achieve your goal of having a better body composition, lose some weight, and being your optimal self. So today's video is all about maintaining metabolic health and exploring ways where you can lose weight effectively and as fast as possible, but with natural ways. There are people that are taking Ozempic and Mounjaro, and I personally know some people that are actually, very anxious about finding access to these drugs in order to lose weight. But what if I told you that within a few weeks, you can actually get so much closer to your ideal weight that you don't need all these nasty chemicals? As you know, I am all about the natural approach to health, and being a scientist myself and understanding the side effects from things like Mounjaro or Ozempic, I definitely don't recommend this kind of treatments if you want to lose weight, because we really need to start from the basics. I'm gonna be providing you with some tips in this video about how I maintain my metabolic health, how I maintain my perfect weight for many years now, and how you can replicate the same method in order to kind of build into your routine the things that will make losing weight actually easy and maintaining your ideal body weight actually much easier than you think it actually is. So tune in, like and subscribe to the channel, and check the links in the description because I will be having some resources for you in order to track your progress when it comes to weight loss and overall health and wellness, such as the NMN Bio mobile app, for example, that allows you to track your intermittent fasting and your general wellness. Welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited about it because this is actually a topic that I'm super interested in myself and I'm very passionate about, and I keep on educating all of my friends about a couple of things that they can actually implement on a daily basis in order to achieve results. So first of all, it obviously starts with nutrition. You may know that I'm a big fan of low carb diets, and I do combine those with intermittent fasting for quite a few years now. So I think that it's very interesting when you actually realize how the human metabolism works. So in order to illustrate my point is that just imagine that the human metabolism is basically a flywheel, okay? And the flywheel is spinning and basically processing the different nutrients and the different foods that you're consuming on a daily basis. So what happens is that carbs are basically like an obstacle, and they prevent the flywheel from spinning, because this is exactly what happens because the human body is actually not equipped to be processing so many carbohydrates on a regular basis, because unfortunately our society has implemented this food pyramid from the 60s in order to provide nutritional guidelines for the general population. We now know that this is not the most optimal diet for humans because basically everyone is getting fat and obese and sick. And the reason for this is because fats were vilified while carbs were promoted as something healthy that you can actually have on a daily basis in order to get your daily calorie intake from carbohydrates. And we do see this shelves of foods that have a 2-year best before date in huge supermarkets, aisles and aisles of them, because it's actually very convenient to distribute and it's cheap to produce, and you can feed a big amount of population with those foods. However, 15,000 years ago is when agriculture was massively introduced all across the globe. And what happened is that this is when carbohydrates were introduced into our diets. Before that, we weren't eating any carbohydrates at all, or actually a minimal amount, because we would just have eat meat and then we would have an occasional berry or mushroom from the forest, and that would be eat. And our body is actually producing carbohydrates by itself by a process called gluconeogenesis, even from protein intake. So the minimal amount of carbs that some of our cells need, such as immune cells and our neurons, they actually can get enough of it just from meat consumption. So the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because the number one thing that blocks your metabolism is processed foods and carbohydrates. And of course, this is seed oils as well, and all kinds of fast food and nasties that block your metabolism. So what happens when you remove these foods or you drastically reduce them and you go into a low carb diet, such as a keto diet or a carnivore diet, and you just consume primarily meat and protein and fats, this is when your metabolism really starts taking off by itself. And of course, you can support this process with supplements such as berberine, for example, from NMN Bio, because it's an optimized product that we actually formulated in a way to make sure that you get the maximum benefits compared to other products on the market. Why is that? It's because we added something called milk thistle, another natural compound that is basically blocking the activity of P-glycoprotein in your digestive tract. And this is when the berberine absorption goes from 3% to up to 90%. This is how optimized our product is, and this is what our customers are reporting as well. So they take other berberine brands and then they don't feel any effect. But when you take berberine with milk thistle from NMN Bio, within 10 days, you stop having sugar cravings, or they're massively reduced, and your appetite goes down a little bit. So now you can regulate your metabolism and your blood sugar levels much more efficiently. Another tip is, as I said, is implementing some intermittent fasting, because the narrower your feeding window is, the better your metabolism will be working. And by default, by narrowing your feeding window, you will be able to squeeze in a bit less calories within your day. So by having this kind of framework for either weight loss or just maintaining your ideal weight, because as I said, I don't have any problems with my weight. Like, I've been the same weight, 51, 52 kg, ever since I was a teenager, basically. So I do maintain my metabolic health for longevity. If you're interested in longevity, and this is what this channel is all about, and you don't have metabolic health and you don't have ideal weight, and you might be having some visceral fat around your waist, which is a sign of insulin resistance, you can forget about longevity, okay? It just doesn't work. So if you're interested in living many healthy years in good health, this is the number one thing to fix and to start with: your metabolic health. Super, super important. I might have mentioned before that visceral fat is in general a sign of insulin resistance, and the fact that there is already lipid accumulation in your liver, and this is why the visceral fat from bad food and from insulin resistance starts accumulating outside the liver and like around your internal organs and your waist. And this is a sign that there is, like, whatever it is you're doing with your nutrition doesn't work, right? Because I'm all about this systemic approach to health. So if you have some sort of a principle, maybe you're vegan or vegetarian, and you're saying that, look, this is good for me, like, what are the actual results, right? So in terms of your figure, your body weight, and then of course the biomarkers that you can measure with blood. What is the level of your HbA1c, which is basically showing how much insulin resistance your body has accumulated over the past few months. So super important, and I'm all about the evidence-based approach, right? I'm not going to debate anyone with regards to the environmental impact of the different diets or the ethical reasons. As a scientist, I'm interested in what does one particular nutrition do when it comes to your actual health markers. Okay, so So that's the tip number 2, implementing some intermittent fasting. And I'm sure you will be able to find plenty of resources on our website as well, because we do have extensive blog posts covering intermittent fasting, but also other books and resources out there. So for example, I've been introduced to the intricacies of intermittent fasting by Dave Asprey, who is the father of biohacking. He does have an incredible book called Fast This Way that I would definitely recommend. Of course, when it comes to consuming different macronutrients, another tip would be to actually have a particular sequence that you basically have with every meal that you consume, right? So it's all about the insulin spikes in your blood and all about the glucose molecules that are floating around and trigger a bunch of negative processes in your body, because like the more glucose spikes you have, the more oxidative stress you're going to have within your arteries. That leads to accumulation of cholesterol. Eventually, your risk for type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease is increasing. People have vilified fat before, but actually, no matter how many fatty foods you're consuming, if they're not accompanied by an insulin spike, you're not going to have negative effects on your cholesterol levels. So this is very important to understand. When you're consuming, for example, a lot of cheese, and let's say you have a diet primarily consisting of a lot of protein and fats, no matter the fat percentage, if it's not accompanied by bread, for example, you're not going to get elevation in your cholesterol level. So this is very important to understand, right? And then, of course, as I said, the sequence of food. So the right one is to do fiber first in order to coat your gut with the fiber, and then to have your main meal, which is protein and fat. So the starter could be some edamame, for example. So Asian restaurants do it right, but Italian restaurants don't, unfortunately. So they bring you the bread and so on, and then it's an insulin spike, and then 70 or 90 minutes later, after you finished your main meal, your levels of insulin are actually dropping, and this is where you ask for dessert, right? So it's all kind of fabricated into a nice sequence to optimize the lifetime value from the customer. But the healthy way to do it, the healthy way to eat, and to make sure that your body gets as many benefits as possible from every meal, is to consume some fiber first. So this could be some salad or some edamame, whatever, and then protein and fat. So your main meal, so let's say meat or fat, and then if you would like to have some carbohydrates with your meal, you can have them last. This is what's gonna basically minimize your insulin spike, and this includes bread and pasta and rice. All these things should be introduced into the meal a bit later on, right? So that's the right sequence, the optimal sequence, in order to make sure that the insulin spike from carbohydrates is minimized. So you don't have to cut off carbohydrates straight away after this video, right? You can still have them, but then you can basically optimize the sequence of your food. And of course, when we're talking about when to have your insulin spikes during the day, so usually we don't recommend sweet breakfast, right? Because what happens is that this would send your glucose levels into a roller coaster all day long, which may affect your overall sense of well-being, but also focus and concentration, right? So it's all linked back to insulin resistance. So savory breakfast. So let's say you would have some eggs with some cheese and maybe a bit of fiber, maybe some tomatoes. And then the second meal of the day would be, again, some fiber and then protein and fat. And then if you want to have some carbohydrates, you would have them last. So this is the best way to do it, by sticking to a low carbohydrate diet. And if you do this for a few days, you will already start seeing the results with your body weight and your body composition, right? So this would be the best natural protocol that I would recommend to anyone for weight loss. Just try that before you do the Mounjaro injections. Just try that before you do anything else. And of course, it's better to always eat early. So my general rule of thumb, so I'm trying to eat before the sunset. So either two meals or 3 meals within a day, whatever is comfortable for you, but just try to have your last meal of the day before sunset. sunset or before, let's say, 5 or 6 p.m. So that's a natural way that can boost your metabolism. And then, if you top this off with things like berberine, for example, and other supplements that can aid your metabolic health, such as, for example, the TMG, that is an excellent supplement for both DNA repair but also liver health. And of course, NMN, the king of anti-aging, has been shown to basically promote metabolic health and also increase insulin sensitivity in pre-diabetic women. So we already have human clinical studies for both NMN and berberine showing that it's very, very efficient in helping you managing your weight. And actually, berberine with milk thistle has been shown in human clinical studies to also increase insulin sensitivity, and it did so actually quite better than an FDA-approved drug for type 2 diabetes called metformin, right? So you don't have to go on metformin in order to manage pre-diabetes or diabetes, but you can actually take berberine and prevent this whole cascade of bad processes in your cells of things like oxidative stress happening, and basically making sure that you get the most out of your lifestyle interventions. And of course, if you don't exercise regularly, you're not going to get the optimal benefits from your whole weight loss protocol, right? So 2 or 3 times a week, at least 20 to 30 minutes to start with, would be the start. And when it comes to, again, systemic approach, I'm all about, making sure that we actually have a framework. And, when something is unknown to me, what I'm doing is that instead of saying, I don't know, I'm just going online and asking myself who can help me resolve this problem. So on that note, I actually would love you to comment under this video. If you have some questions related to metabolic health and weight loss, please drop them below, and I will try and cover as many as possible in the next video. So with that in mind, as I said, there are free resources available to you on the NMN Bio website in forms of blog posts and such, and also the mobile app that is providing you a free intermittent fasting tracking tool and a wellness tool in order to track your wellness. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a nice one, guys.